Hey brothers and sisters, Steve Monette here with another video in my Bible Prophecy Bite series, where we look at Bible scripture, history, and current events that all point to the soon return of Jesus Christ. So for today's video, I want to try and answer a question that has undoubtedly crossed your mind. And I assume that because it has crossed my mind over the past several months. So much so that it has made me go out and search the scriptures for an answer. And after about 2 months of searching, I may have found something that's worth reporting to you. And the question is this: why are we, the church, still here on earth, despite all of the prophecies that have come to pass, along with all of the signs that we have seen in the sun, moon, and the stars? And just to refresh your memory, here are some of those signs and prophecies, most of them occurring just within the last 2 years alone. We've seen Israel turn 70 as of May of 2018. Gog and Magog are 55 miles from the northern border of Israel. The 120-year definition of a generation that started in 1897 with the first Jewish National Congress. The 100-year definition of a generation that began in 1917 when the British recaptured Jerusalem from the Turks and proceeded to give it to the Israelites as a homeland. We also saw the 80-year definition of a generation that began with the Night of Broken Glass in Nazi Germany in 1938. And that event kicked off what was now known as the Holocaust, that literally wiped out 1/3 of the Jewish population, and that was exterminated by the German army. We also saw the 70-year definition of a generation that began in 1948, when Israel became an independent nation for the first time in over 2,000 years. And then when it comes to the signs in the sun, moon, and the stars, yeah, we saw lots of those. We saw 7 straight blood moons that all fell on Jewish feast days. And that's despite the fact that the Torah calendar has been proven scripturally to be flawed today. But yet we also saw the Revelation 12 sign, and yet most of us are still not quite sure what that really means. And then for the first time ever, we saw an asteroid strike a blood moon, and that was recorded on film at an absolute exact time that seemed to point to Passover of 2019. And of course, we're all familiar with the earthquakes, wars, rumors of wars, famines, pestilences, apostasy. And yes, we are in the days of Noah, no doubt. We know about the 1967 capture of Jerusalem. We know about the third temple altar that was dedicated in December of 2018 that absolutely matched the story in Ezra, where when the Israelites returned from Babylon, they also built an altar as well. We also saw the 483rd year anniversary since the second decree to rebuild Jerusalem, and that ended in April of 2018 as well, just 20 days before the 70th anniversary of Israel. And remember that those two prophecies were written over 2,500 years ago, 500 years apart, and somehow or another they came to fulfillment within 20 days of each other in the year 2018. So as you can see, there are quite a significant number of events that have occurred, and as I said, just in the last 2 years alone. And this generation has been witness to all of them. But surprisingly, we are still here, and the world continues to grow darker and more evil by the day. So as you can imagine, I've been asking the Lord, why is this the case? How is it possible that all of these signs all point to nothing? What we all thought was significant time frames that were being announced by these signs and these events all turned out to be nothing. Why is that, Lord? And after a few months of asking this question, I think maybe the answer may have come to me, and it is 100% scriptural. So here it is. When we read in Matthew 24, we read the story of the Olivet Discourse, which is the detailed description of what the time will be like just before Jesus returns in the clouds for his church. Matthew 24 also is nearly identical to Revelation 6 and Revelation 7, which clearly describes the opening of the sixth seal. And we know that Revelation 7 describes the rapture of the church. But did you know that in the very next chapter, in the first 5 verses of Matthew 25, Jesus begins to tell us the parable of the 10 virgins. And in verse 5, Jesus clearly states that the bridegroom was delayed. Now, we all know who the bridegroom is, and that is Jesus himself. And yet here we have Jesus telling us that he is delayed. And yet we all seem to have forgotten that point. So immediately after telling the apostles of all of the details concerning his return at the rapture of the church, in the very next chapter, Jesus goes on to give us a parable where he states that he may very well be delayed. And that, of course, begs the question, how long will he be delayed? And to try and answer that question, I looked in the Bible for examples of Jesus being delayed or being late for something or some event. And I could only find one. And that was when Jesus received word that Lazarus was sick and dying. And what did Jesus do when he heard this terrible news? He intentionally delayed his response. In fact, the Bible tells us that he delayed or tarried for 2 days before heading out to Lazarus' residence. So I thought about this for several days, and I came up with this, I guess I'll call it a theory. Tell me what you think of it. If you take 2 days that Jesus was delayed and you convert them into 2 years, you know a day is a year. We have that through several verses in the Bible. And if we simply add those 2 years to May of 2018, which was the 70th anniversary of Israel being an independent nation, that lands us in May of 2020. And guess what happens in May of 2020? And if you saw my last video, will the temple be built in 2020? You will know the answer to this question. The third temple is likely to be established in May of 2020. That is, if the pattern that has been repeating itself, well, quite frankly, since 1948, continues to repeat itself, then that temple will have its foundation laid in May of 2020, which will be the second month. And if you want more details on that, please see my last video on that third temple. And I do have complete details and even a link to all my study notes. And to make it easy for you, I'm going to leave a link to that video in this description box to make it easy, okay? So, what temple is going to be established in May of 2020? Will it be the temple made with bricks and mortar? Or will it be the temple of the living God, Jesus the Christ himself? Well, only time will tell. And if you have been a follower of my videos, you know that I did advocate strongly for a spring rapture, although I did change my thought process to a summer Pentecost rapture. But none of us, we just don't know if we're correct or not. Which season will be the correct one? Again, only time will tell. But no matter how you look at it, we could be less than a year away. So, brothers and sisters, keep looking up, for our redemption draws near. Thanks for watching.